A three-row Jeep was a long time coming. It's called the Commandia in the global market, and here it's called the Meridian. And I think it looks stunning in this shade of red. Sure, it doesn't have the commanding presence of body-on-frame SUVs like the Endeavour or the Fortuner. Probably that is why they dropped the Commandia name. But it certainly looks very elegant than the Brutes, looks more sophisticated than the Gloster, and has the athletic stance to take on the Kodiaq or the Tiguan. Yes, it's going to compete with all those cars, which means it is going to come at a premium. But don't think of this car to be a Compass with third row seating. It's actually wider, which means that shoulder room in the second row should be good. It's longer as well, so legroom should be good too. Like the Compass, the rear doors open 80 degrees, but they are wider, so ingress and egress shouldn't be a problem at all. And with the driver's seat set to my driving preference, the seating is actually quite comfortable. Legroom is quite good, foot space is quite good, headroom is not a problem at all, but for taller passengers it's going to be an issue because this sort of curves in, so anyone who is 6 feet above is probably going to have a problem. You get a panoramic sunroof which extends all the way back to the second row, so roominess inside the cabin is not a problem at all. Ingress and egress is also quite easy because of these wide doors, because of the fairly tall roof and the low floor. It's not a very tall floor, so ingress and egress, even for older people, is not going to be a problem. However, ingress and egress in the third row, that is going to be a problem, despite the one-touch tumble for these seats, because this is where things get a little tricky, especially for someone as unfit as me. Let's keep that Jeep umbrella away, but it's not easy. I mean, you're sitting in a knees up position. Now, if I were to, oh my God, I am really unfit. So let's just throw this on the side, lift this as well. Oh my God, I'm already getting cramps in my intestine. Thank God the third row is adjustable for a bit of recline, but this space honestly is only good enough for kids and not long distance journeys either. And getting out is not going to be easy either. I don't know what is a more dignified way to get out of this cabin. Not very easy. But the third row seating, if you were to compare it to something like the Gloster, the Fortuner, the Endeavour, they have fairly lower floors. They don't make you sit in as much of a knees up position as this one does. So like I said, this third row is only good enough for short journeys, even if you're putting kids back there. The Kia Carnival has a better third row seating, so if you badly need third row comfort, look for an MPV instead. Use these seats in the Meridian only when you absolutely have to. They aren't very comfortable and even kids may not enjoy it over the long distances. Drop the third row of seats flat and you get a massive cargo room. So essentially, I look at this vehicle as a very spacious 5-seater with lots of room for your luggage. So road tripping, it's going to be beautiful with this car. Of course, cars like the European cars, like the Škoda Kodiaq and the Volkswagen Tiguan, they also give you plenty of space, plenty of luggage room. So they are good road tripping vehicles too. But this one edges ahead because unlike those Europeans, under the hood is the 2-liter diesel engine. A very fuel efficient diesel engine at that. So essentially, it's not going to pinch that much. Speaking of road trips though, the spare wheel is a skinny 145 section space saver mounted on a 17-inch steel rim. So catching a puncture on your adventures can make life difficult. The Meridian rolls on a newly designed set of 17 or 18-inch wheels depending on the trim you choose, and comes short with the tough Bridgestone Dueler HT tires, so hopefully you won't puncture them often. When you're negotiating tight bends or even making lane changes at highway speeds, the Meridian just doesn't make its length evident. Of course, the turning radius is a bit on the higher side because it is a long vehicle after all. It is wider than the Compass, it has longer wheelbase as well. So there it will make it a bit evident, but otherwise maneuvering this car is not a problem at all. And then you also get the convenience of a 360-degree camera, so whether you're off-roading, whether you're driving in city spaces, tight parking spaces, it shouldn't be a problem at all. In fact, it feels nice and convenient. Add to it a very easy, nice progressive braking system, a very well-tuned steering, something that we also enjoyed with the Compass, and it just feels like a nice sophisticated package, something that you can easily compare to the luxury cars out there. So overall, I'm quite impressed with the kind of dynamics that they've managed. I think I'm going to go on record and say this is one of the best handling vehicles in this particular segment right now. In fact, it challenges some of the luxury cars in the way it handles. So if you want a vehicle that feels solid, that handles really well, feels agile, and at the same time feels very stable no matter what speeds you're doing, I think the Meridian should be the vehicle that you should consider. As for the engine, it's the same 2-liter diesel as the Compass though, with similar power and torque outputs. Yet it manages to match the power-to-weight ratio of the new, more powerful Toyota Fortuner. The engine certainly feels punchier than all the engines that we've sampled with the Ford Endeavour. It also feels comparable on the performance to the new, more powerful Fortuner or even the Gloster. Of course, the 9-speed automatic, it does sap this engine of some of its enthusiasm, but then if you want that convenience or if you want go-anywhere capabilities, you will have to choose the 9-speed automatic. Despite the 4x4 badging, this is an all-wheel drive and it's only available with the automatic. Downshifts are quick, but upshifts take a while. The engine certainly feels more refined than the diesel competition, and while the auto has a slightly sluggish low-end response, the mid-range pull is pretty good and so is the cruising ability. The go-anywhere capability is rather good too, because you see, this is a Jeep after all. So essentially with a lot of SUVs, different brands, you will see a lot of articulation courses, artificial courses that are made to sort of highlight the off-road prowess of the vehicle. And while all of that does look good, honestly, that's not where you're going to be driving, right? It's maybe stuff like this, trails, pathways, broken roads, driving to your farm or actually climbing up a mountain. You will be doing stuff like that, depending on how many scratches you want to put on this expensive bodywork. But that's essentially why we are here, not on an artificial course. Yes, there are a few of those up ahead, but right now we are driving literally through the thorns and the bushes and the rocks, just to sort of understand how this Meridian performs out in the real world. And so far, it's all good. Honestly, I have not had to touch any of the off-roading tools. I've simply left the driving mode in auto. It's doing everything by itself. We have the 4-wheel drive lock. Honestly, there were very few places where it actually was required. Otherwise, the vehicle just feels very capable. And while they were wrecking this, they were also using regular compasses out here. So anywhere the compass can go, the Meridian can easily follow. In fact, I'm told by the team that there are some sections which the Meridian does really well, in fact better than the compass. So of course, cars like the Fortuner, body on frame, proper 4x4 transfer case, they will perform better on certain sections, on certain areas, and that's a given. I mean, you just can't take that away from cars like the Fortuner. But the astonishing bit is that this Meridian remains comfortable over all of this, right? And it doesn't need you to know or have a lot of knowledge about using the different tools that are given in the car. Just put it in the right drive mode and the car does everything for you. That's the beauty of it. And it has drive modes which the Fortuner doesn't. Up next is that extreme drop. We will need the hill descent control for that, and that's where we are going down. It may not look scary on the screen, but from where I am seeing, it is quite a steep drop. And this is with the stock tires. Slap on 80 or MT rubber and the car will do even more astonishing stuff. On some of the tough descents, the Meridian did scrape its chin, and that tells you that the approach and departure angles aren't comparable to the body-on-frame SUVs. So choose your terrain and track carefully. But I also believe that most of the Meridian owners would maybe do 30 to 40% of the stuff that we are showing you here at best. So I would go on to say that if you aren't the one who would voluntarily go around scratching and scraping the car through the thorns, bushes and rocks, but want a car that won't chicken out when the situation demands it, the Meridian will do just fine without compromising on the comfort or the composure. So in that sense, it could be that robust American alternative that could fill in some of the void left by the Endeavour. The other big draw is the number of features and creature comforts it brings to the table. While it misses out on ADAS, it has all the other essentials that you would want at this price point. Connected tech, feature-rich infotainment, branded audio, etc. The audio isn't punchy as the Compass though. So the dashboard layout, the screens, everything will look similar to the Compass when you go to the showroom and compare the two cars. However, this one, like I said, it's a bit wider. The material choices are very similar, but the color choices are different. You get a black on top, you get a brown upholstery, and then you get a different pattern for the inlays, very similar to the pattern that we've seen in the headlights and in the taillights. So overall, the fit and finish is quite nice, but only in the front. The moment you go to the second row and then the third row, you can see the quality degrading, especially on the plastics that are used in the lower part of the car. You have nice soft touch materials here, but you have all scratchy plastics at the back, and it just gets worse in the third row. So I don't like this degradation in quality that I can clearly see from the first row until the third, but it's not something that I'll complain about much until I see the price. If they're charging a big premium for this, then this quality ought to have been better. The cabin would have looked better in tan upholstery, methinks, and could certainly do with better air conditioning. The second row vents feel inadequate with a full house. We know because we even went off-roading with 6 people on board. And though the cooling felt inadequate, the engine did not feel out of breath. So don't worry so much about that 170 PS output. What you could worry about though is the asking price. So if you look at the way Stellantis is doing their business in India, which is essentially the Jeep and the Citroën brands, they are not targeting big numbers because they know they simply can't match the volumes right now of the more established competition. So how they are going about it is they are okay with the smaller numbers, but they would charge a premium for it. That way they would remain profitable, that way they would earn a lot more behind every product that they are selling. And I'm guessing it's going to be the same thing with the Meridian as well. So it will come at a premium. The pricing has not been told to us. It will come at a premium. I'm sure it will undercut the Fortuner, but the Fortuner is a different ballgame altogether. If you are really looking at that proper off-roading capability, that massive stance, you just can't take that away from the Fortuner. That continues to be the more superior product in that sense. However, if you're looking for a more sophisticated alternative, something like what we've seen with the Kodiaq, but the lack of a diesel engine is pinching you, then I think the Meridian just fits in nicely. It also brings in a host of features to this segment, which the Fortuner has not been able to sort of meet up to in terms of the expectations. The Endeavour never did that either. So I think there is that large chunk of buyers who are looking for a product that is well spec'd, that feels sophisticated, that may not have the presence of a Fortuner, that may not have the off-roading capability of a Fortuner to an extent. This is a very capable vehicle like we showed you. So I think with all these things considered, the Meridian fits in quite nicely. When I reviewed the Compass, I also told you that I would recommend that car over the entry-level luxury brands or the entry-level luxury products that you get from BMW, Mercedes, Audi, etc. Now this one sits right up there. If you need 3 rows of seating, if you need Compass level of equipment, if you need exceptional off-road capabilities despite an all-wheel drive system, I think the Meridian just nails it. Pricing is going to be the key, and I hope Jeep don't overdo it and give it at a very accessible price point, because then they certainly have a winner on their hands.